Welcome, everybody, to Survive and Advance on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Survive and Advance is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. Make sure you go to thegruelingtruth.com. Yeah, I said .com. And click on the MyBookie.ag at the banner at the top of the page to get up to a $1,000 cash bonus on your first 50% deposit. I am your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster, and help me welcome to the show 1981 national champion and just an old dude sitting around watching the Masters today, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
How did we get to .com? How did we elevate ourselves from a .net to a .com? Can you explain that to everybody?
Well, we bought the .com domain name, and then we switched it all to .com.
And that's why we didn't do a show yesterday, correct?
That is what. Yeah, we did a show. If you go on to grillingtruth.net, you'll see there was a show yesterday for Survive and Advance. What are you talking about, Steve?
We reproduced the show. We didn't do a live show.
We ran a repeat, like all other great shows. All in the Family had repeats. Cheers had repeats. Survive and Advance has repeats.
I'm going to tell you what. The Andy Griffith Show is the greatest show on TV, and the Brady Bunch is right behind him.
The Brady Bunch?
You watch them.
You're showing your feminine side now, Steve.
You got to love the Brady Bunch. Are you kidding me?
Well, my favorite episode of the Brady Bunch is when they went to Hawaii, and I still won't go to Hawaii now because of that spider that crawled up. Was it Bobby or Greg? And that spider crawled up. That was scary as hell.
My favorite was when Marcia got hit in the nose with a football, and, there you go.
You like abusing women is what you're telling me right now.
Mike, what was the name of the dog in the Brady Bunch?
Spike?
You don't know.
Spike or Spot? I don't remember.
Nope.
Hold on. Let me think
Tiger.
about it. What the hell?
It was Tiger.
Tiger. Yeah. All right.
Tiger
now, you know
was
what?
the dog. All right.
I think that's a check mark for me on not being a dipshit because I didn't know it, and it's a check mark for you being a dipshit because you did.
Okay. Introduce everybody else we got on the show today.
We got other people on the show? I thought we were just going to talk about the Brady Bunch today. But, all right.
I used up all my time.
We have our NBA beat writer here to talk about the NBA playoffs, Cole Hanna. How you doing, Cole?
Doing pretty good, guys. I think it'll be a lot of good matchups in the first round.
Cole, nobody cares about that. The thing that sticks out right now is, what's your favorite Brady Bunch episode? Have you ever seen the Brady Bunch, Cole?
I've seen bits and pieces of it. I don't know if I've seen enough to have a favorite episode, but I've seen it on TV.
I don't even know why we have Cole on this show. What?
Mike, do you know that Joe Namath was on the Brady Bunch?
Yeah, so was Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali.
But remember, Joe Namath
Yeah.
taught people that the Joe Namath episode taught people, like Bobby Brady completely freaking lied and falsified stuff just to get to meet Joe Namath. And then still Joe went out and tossed football with him in the fake backyard.
There you go. And Marcia had Davy Jones on from the Monkees.
Oh, I remember that. Did they sing The Last Train to Clarksville?
I don't know what. No, Sunshine Sunday was their big song or something.
Sing
like
a little
that.
bit of it for us, so Cole can get the general idea of what Sunshine, was.
Yeah, exactly. Move on.
Oh,
get Bobby
such
involved.
a sissy.
Bobby,
all right,
please,
I'm actually
Bobby,
killing time because I know Bobby was up late working on the Sheridan report, and he's trying to wake up, so I figured we'd give him a few minutes with inane conversation. So no more inane conversation. Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan report, what's your favorite Brady Bunch episode?
I was going to say, you guys woke me up for this. I mean, I think my favorite one was when Peter had a look-alike. Peter existed a look-alike, and they fooled their dates or something. I remember something like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I think I do remember that. Then you had the one where or was it Greg? No, it was, I don't even remember. One of them's voice changed. That was cool. But let's go ahead. And
No. Wait. That was Bobby. His voice changed. Mike, what was Greg Brady's alter ego name? See if you know this.
Slick Willie.
No. Oh, come on. Somebody's got to know this.
I don't
Johnny
remember.
Fly.
Oh,
Johnny Fly.
Johnny Bravo.
Johnny Bravo. Yeah, Johnny Bravo.
There you go.
Johnny Bravo. He was Johnny Bravo. Yeah, no doubt. And here's the thing. 10 miles from my house, they're rebuilding the Brady Bunch house.
We already know this. Anybody that's
involved.
listened in the past knows this.
Yeah, I know, but it's done now. It's completed. It's going to air on HGTV in October. And, we've gone by it. And, because we're idiots. We're Hoosiers that live in California. They're tourists, basically. So, but it's really cool. But they completely redone the house, and they all rebuilt a room that's iconically recreated from the original Brady Bunch show.
All I can tell you is this,
5 years,
Steve,
actually.
is you've just given HGTV a 1-minute sponsorship, and they didn't pay us a freaking dime. I hope you're happy. All right, guys, let's start off. We got some sad news today. Former Green Bay Packer legend,
yeah.
NFL Hall of Famer, head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, the Green Bay Packers, brought back the SMU football program after death penalty. Forrest Gregg passed away today. He appeared in a then record 188 straight games from 1956 to 1971. He was called by Vince Lombardi the greatest football player that he had ever coached. After his playing career ended, Gregg moved into the coaching ranks from 75 to 87. He was the head coach of the Browns, where I think he might have been the coach of the year in like 76 or 77. He gets fired from there. He goes to the Cincinnati Bengals, where he led the Bengals to their first Super Bowl appearance of all time, Super Bowl 16 in 1981. He moved on, like I said, to coach at SMU. He also coached in the CFL. I can't remember which CFL team he coached, but I think it was the Toronto Argonauts who he coached after the Cleveland Browns. Bobby, any thoughts on the life and career of Forrest Gregg?
Mike, I don't have any thoughts other than I just always respected him. I just remember him on the sidelines. He had that he looked like a football coach, didn't he? I mean,
yeah.
And he had that, you could tell he had a really good connection with his team. He was just a really good coach. And I remember the SMU part of it when you brought that up. I did remember that. And everything he did in football was successful.
Yeah, and he was a dude that, I think there's some similarities to him when he coached to Bob Knight, Steve, because he was a guy that I've interviewed a bunch of guys that played for him in the early 80s, and they're all like, wasn't nobody going to mess with Forrest, so you did what he said, because unlike Bobby Knight, I think Forrest could have whipped everybody's ass in the room.
Yes.
Knight probably could have, too, because he just coached a bunch of basketball players.
Yeah, here's the funny thing about Bob Knight, and I don't want to get off the Forrest Gregg thing, but people don't understand that Bob Knight was 6'5" and about 240 pounds. I mean, he just always stood himself around guys taller than him, so he didn't look that big. But you got in the locker room with Bob Knight, and when he started throwing shit, it got hairy real quick. And you didn't want to mess with him because he was a huge man. And, so why is my dog
Well,
barking?
if this is a word,
Who
Forrest
knows?
Gregg was even huger.
Yeah. So, Mike, let me ask you this question. Is Forrest Gregg the most important lineman or the most famous lineman of all time in the NFL?
I would say now that's probably Anthony Munoz. And the interesting thing here is Vince Lombardi called Forrest Gregg the greatest offensive lineman, or the greatest football player he was ever around. And Forrest Gregg, in 1980, the first guy he drafted for the Cincinnati Bengals was Anthony Munoz. So I think there's something to be said for that. Greatness begets greatness, and I think that Anthony Munoz was a taller, longer, quicker version of Forrest Gregg. I think they're two of the greatest tackles that ever lived. I think there's no doubt Munoz is the greatest tackle of all time. And the thing that impressed me about Forrest Gregg is we've had Gary Burley on the show. He's probably going to be on next week, by the way. But Gary played for Forrest. Reggie Williams played for Forrest. And they all said he was just a tough man. And he demanded your respect. And you gave it to him, or he would take it. So, and the other thing about him was just how great of a guy he was. And it's sad that, of course, he ended his life the way so many do anymore, where he was, he had Alzheimer's, dementia. It's just sad.
Yeah, and Forrest Gregg was probably a guy, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure he probably had sold insurance or did something off season.
Oh yeah, they all had to back in.
Yeah, they all had other jobs. They didn't get.
So he had a work ethic, put it like that, which most guys nowadays don't.
Yeah, he had an incredible work ethic, which is what you don't get anymore. But it also goes back to say guys like Vince Lombardi know the fact that it's the role players that make the difference in whether you win or lose. You have superstars, if I'm not right or wrong. You got your Bart Starr. Get your Jim Taylors, and you've got your superstars on the team, your Paul Hornings, but you've got to have these role players like a Forrest Gregg.
Oh, Forrest Gregg!
Absolutely.
Wait a second. You just called Forrest Gregg a role player. Vince Lombardi said he was the greatest player he's ever coached.
So we don't generally celebrate linemen like we celebrate quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers.
Yeah, but the thing is this: with Bart Starr, before Vince Lombardi got there, the Packers sucked, and Bart Starr wasn't very good. It wasn't until he got there because he was a great leader. And we're going to go ahead and get off of this right now because I want to go to the Magic Johnson thing.
We lost a legend, yeah.
We talk about leadership, and that's what we're talking about. That's what Forrest Gregg, guys like that had. They weren't afraid to piss people off to get things done. And we had Magic Johnson who made a comment that, and I'm going to go to Bobby, or I'm going to go Cole with this first, because Cole hadn't got to talk yet, because I figured that he's probably too young to know a whole lot about Forrest Gregg. But what Magic Johnson said was, I know we all think this had something to do with LeBron or maybe the Laker organization, but I think what really stood out to me was when he talked about making decisions that affect people's lives. And he said, tomorrow I would have to affect somebody's livelihood and life. And I thought about it and said, that's not for me. That's not who I am. In the press conference, he went on to say, I want to go back to having fun. I want to go back to who I was before taking on this job. So does that mean that maybe this job just didn't fit him, Cole? Or do we think there's some underlying issues here?
I definitely think there are some underlying issues here. In addition to that, I mean, certainly part of that stuff. I mean, that's all fair game for him to talk about. I mean, you're changing people's lives. You're making decisions that can end some guys' careers in some cases, especially when you're cutting guys that are maybe fringe NBA players. On the other end, Magic Johnson always did say he had a 3-year plan. Obviously, the second year of that plan, I think everyone agrees they underachieved. Going into next year, the future is not exactly as bright maybe for the Lakers as it did look at one point. And certainly I think there are some locker room issues going on there that probably just made his job all the more tougher. Especially there's that report that came out the other day about LeBron and specifically the locker room dynamic between LeBron and the rest of the Lakers locker room. And it was just pretty much that the other players didn't trust LeBron. That, this is a guy that they got the feeling that he was trying to ship them out for, Anthony Davis or every other star player they were chasing at the time. And certainly, when you're Magic, you're the one who's organizing that locker room. And when you have, your teammates not trusting what is supposed to be the leader of this team, LeBron, I think that just makes his job all the more tougher.
So when I look at this, Bobby, would that mean, maybe Magic was friends with LeBron? It made it hard to make decisions. But I think for the most part we've seen legendary players usually don't make good coaches or GMs. And I think that Magic's kind of the guy that wants to be everybody's friend. And as a coach or a GM or somebody that's running a professional organization, you can't really afford to be real close and friends with people unless you can deal with being able to make the decisions to let them go when it helps your team or your organization.
I think that's exactly right. And I think we got to take one thing I've known, listening to Magic and reading all his quotes and, forever since I was a kid. I mean, Magic, you got to take him at face value. He's a guy, if that's what he said, then that's what it is. He just wasn't happy in this role. He's really, he and his wife I think his wife has a lot of influence on him. And I think she was probably pointing out to him, look, you're coming home and you're miserable. And you used to come home and be happy, owning half of L.A. and just doing whatever you wanted to do. You don't need this. And I think he realized he didn't need it. And I think Cole's points really exacerbated that. LeBron coming in here, it hasn't been all that easy. Yes, he's on his other stuff and he's got his basketball and the team didn't perform and they wanted to get, Davis and that forced names to be thrown out there and you got the Luke Walton thing and you got all this crap and now who's going to come and not come and it's not working as fast as they wanted it to. It may not even work at all with LeBron and he's just like, look, I got to go.
Yeah,
and I think it's just that's what it is.
And Steve, when you look at it, Johnson was fined multiple times for the strict tampering rules that he broke, talking to players. Most people thought his relationship with current players were an asset to the Lakers, especially after he successfully got LeBron James last summer. I really think this. I think there's a difference between as a player being a leader and doing what he has to do now. And I think the biggest problem with Magic Johnson is, you always talked about his smile and everything. I think Magic wants everybody to like him. And when he's in a job where everybody doesn't like him or can't like him because of the decision he makes, I think that had a huge effect on this.
Hugely, and I agree with you entirely. I think Magic just got in a situation where he got LeBron'd. LeBron came out here, and for all the right reasons or wrong reasons, Jeannie Buss is, she's the primary owner of the team. I know there's other people that own the team as well, but she's the primary owner. And I just think that he wanted to build something, but like you said, Mike, great players don't make great managers or coaches or leaders. And it's very difficult to do the hard things and say the hard words. And I don't think Magic wanted to do that. He wanted to be liked. He's life large in L.A. I live out here, and Bobby lives out here too. He knows what I'm talking about. Magic Johnson is Magic Johnson. He's the king of L.A. And it just, I think he just said, you know what, I'm just going to walk away from this before I get myself in any kind of trouble. It's a sad thing because I think that, the Lakers could have rebuilt themselves. And they will eventually, but Pelinka, and now you got to wonder, now here's my question to you, Mike or Bobby, Kobe Bryant, where does he fit into this whole process?
He's a retired former player that was really selfish and wouldn't be able to coach a team if he had an opportunity to.
Yeah.
I just, if they do that.
This is Showtime.
It's Showtime, but what they don't realize is this. Yeah. The original Showtime had a former great player that got it, and that was Jerry West. And if we look at this, the L.A. Clippers are in the playoffs. The L.A. Lakers aren't. The Clippers didn't go out and get LeBron, and the Clippers actually traded some guys away. But what Jerry West is best at, Bobby, is putting a team together. And I think when you look at this, Bobby, the other thing is guys like Bruce Bochy are great managers. And I think, or Bill Belichick, but the reason they are is they wouldn't know what it's like to be cut. You get a player like Magic Johnson, he never had to worry about being cut from anything. He has no experience with that. I would think something like that would make it even more difficult to do.
Oh, you mean, so your specific question is again, just kind of someone of Magic stature being in that type of position.
Yeah, it's that position, and the fact that if you get Kobe Bryant's not going to be any better. Hell, Kobe Bryant's probably going to be worse.
Worse, I agree.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Bryant comes up, and Steve and I talked about this just because of his association with Pelinka, and he's a year out now, and maybe he's bored and would like to come in and be the one. Kobe loved the limelight, I think, even more than Magic. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong with that statement.
I think he does, but I think he loves it more selfishly than Magic does.
More selfishly, yes, exactly. Well put. And I think what this does too, you brought up a name, Jerry West. It magnifies what a great. Oh my gosh! I mean, he was a star player. He might be the only one that's been able to go on and do what he's done as a GM multiple times. You know, West is multiple time GM of the year. You know, that guy's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So Bobby, should the Lakers go get Jerry West? Should they just try and grab him back to the Lakers?
The Clippers?
No. I think Jerry West now is kind of he's in that mode where he kind of consults with the. I don't think he's named the GM in name of the Clippers. I think he kind of is a consultant to that whoever that guy is. Didn't we go over that? Wasn't it Frank?
I don't know, but I would say this.
I
would say
Lawrence Frank.
Yeah, I would say if Frank's a smart guy,
basketball manager from Lawrence Frank is actually a basketball manager from Indiana University. Believe it or not.
Right. Right.
Go look it up.
Yeah.
He's helping him. Yeah. And so I don't think I think that whole ship sailed when Jerry West left the Lakers. I don't think he would come back.
Yeah, I don't see any reason
I texted Lawrence Frank the other day and asked for a job, and he didn't return my call.
So he's like 90% of the people you get a hold of. All right, let's go ahead. Let's transition from Kobe Bryant and the way things should not be with an NBA player to two guys that just retired. And Cole, I'll start with you. Dirk Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade both retired, and I would think that my take on this is if every player in the NBA was like Dirk and Dwayne Wade, the NBA would be as big as the NFL.
Oh, yeah, absolutely agree. Those are two guys, especially, growing up, I was always especially a huge fan of Dirk. I just thought he's always carried himself the right way. And same with Dwayne Wade. There's never been a lot of controversy around those guys. Their names have never been in the headlines really for the wrong reasons. They're just students of the game. They just love basketball, and that's why they played. I mean, there was no fame aspect of it there. That's why they play. They didn't want the publicity. They just wanted to play basketball. And like you said, if they could have guys like that they just want to play basketball, they don't care about anything else. It would just make the league that much more fun to watch. So I think that's two big losses for the league. It's glad they got to go out, kind of like a farewell tour, if you will, for the last season of the league. But yeah, I mean, those were two guys that had tremendous impact on the league during their time in it, and it's sad to see them go.
Yeah, and I would think, Bobby, it's safe to say that Dirk Nowitzki will step away as the best European player to ever play in the NBA.
I think you're right, and I think he's ushering in who might wind up being the second best with this Doncic, but that remains to be seen. And the thing with Dirk is he was the original 7-footer that could shoot the 3-pointer. I mean, was there anybody better than him before him?
Bill Laimbeer could shoot the 3, but he wasn't near as good a player.
Right. Well, you're right about that. But Nowitzki just, and now it seems like everybody at that size can hit that shot, and so he's an innovator of that. And then he played his whole career with one team. I've always was really impressed with that. So, the guy's amazing. And
yeah, and Steve
and Dwayne Wade right there too.
Yeah, Steve, we'll get to Dwayne in a second, but Steve, if you look at Nowitzki's numbers, over 31,000 points, the 6th leading scorer of all time, won an NBA championship, an NBA Finals MVP, an NBA MVP, 14-time All-Star. He's a 7-footer that won the 3-point contest. I think that he was a game-changing player. And what's your take on Dirk Nowitzki?
Well, he brought European basketball into the NBA. I think he's the one that really brought it to where the NBA went after NBA players or European players.
Well, I think it was Drazen Petrovic and Tony Kukoc, but I think that Dirk Nowitzki took it to an entirely different level.
Different level, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, he changed the level of the game, and got the European market into the NBA and made it an international game. So good for him. I'm sorry to see him go, but what a great career, 21 years. I mean, what can you say about Dirk Nowitzki that's not good? I can't find one flaw in him as a human being, as a basketball player, as a champion, and, you know, it's all good. It's all good for him. So, but I did get breaking news. Right now, the Lakers are looking at Pat Riley and Jerry West as their new basketball president of operations. I just got that information.
They can't stay out of the 80s. All right, then we go.
Well,
what?
Showtime. It's what? Go back. You know,
can't have
if it ain't broke,
Showtime
don't
with
fix it.
80-year-old men. Let's see.
But there, right now, it's down. Apparently, it appears to be down to Pat Riley and Jerry West, who are going to be, you know. That's what I've just read on the feeds. As
how about this?
President of
I think
Basketball
what this
Operations for the team.
means is they hope to throw a lot of money at Pat Riley or Jerry West. I don't think it necessarily means either one's interested in it.
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to throw those names out to appease Lakers fans. And by the way, Cole, when we had last time you were on, we did an NBA show. Weren't there two people on here that said the Lakers wouldn't make the playoffs, and another two that guaranteed it and told us we were nuts?
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm
You
an
and
idiot.
Bobby.
I'm an idiot.
All right.
I do remember something like that, yeah.
I had to figure out how to gently work that in. All right, let's look at
Mike,
what?
holy cow. I mean, you got to – all right, that's your last time you get to roll that one out. I mean, come on.
Sure it is, Bobby.
Hey, wait, before
All
we
right.
get into the NBA, can we talk about one thing? Before we get into the NBA, can we talk about one thing? Bobby, Steve Alford to Nevada.
I think it fits him. There's no doubt. I think that's he was successful in New Mexico. He'll be successful there. I think he still wants, he jumped back in it so quickly. I think maybe we've underestimated just the warrior and competitor he might just be.
I think this, Bobby.
Geez.
The thing that stood out to me when we interviewed him last week was the fact that he talked basically without saying it, because we weren't talking about the coaching stuff, but just to hear him talk about his dad and his dad as a coach, and, with Coach Knight, I just think that it's born him to be a coach. I think UCLA was just a bad place for most people, not everybody. It's a bad place for Mick Cronin, except for when he gets his paycheck. But we'll just go on and we'll talk a little Dwayne Wade. And Cole, I'll let you speak on Wade a little bit because he's more recent, so you actually saw him play.
I talked to Steve last night. I talked to Steve last night. In the next 2 weeks, we'll have him back on the show, and he will tell us about his intentions, what he wants to do with Nevada. I've already talked to him, so we will have him on.
All right. Cole,
great.
thoughts on Dwayne Wade?
Yeah, well, Bobby brought up with Dirk just that he's, played his entire career with one team. And obviously Dwayne Wade had really a 2-year stretch between Chicago and Cleveland where he was out of Miami. But outside of that, he's been with Miami his entire career. So luckily he got to go back there for his final 2 years, finish out his career with Miami. Obviously, I've grown up watching him. Obviously I'm a Pacers fan growing up. So really back when the Pacers were, a top 2 or 3 seed in the East every year, they had to go through that Miami team that had LeBron, that had Bosh, that had Wade. And I mean, he just really killed them a lot of the time. Man, he had some really explosive games for them in the playoffs against us. Again, it's kind of like, I hate to keep picking on LeBron, but you see LeBron go to LA and you have all the controversy around him as a leader. You never really had that controversy to the same extent with Dwayne Wade as you did with LeBron. It was all about basketball for Dwayne Wade. There was no extracurricular stuff that, got involved with him. No, controversial issues with him. It was all basketball. And obviously he's, been one of the best shooting guards probably in NBA history. He's had a hell of a career. I know people are going to hold probably the super team thing against him, but I don't think that's fair. I think he's had one hell of a career, and, it's good to see him go out the way he did.
Well, see, I don't think you can hold the super team thing against him, Steve, just because of the fact that He could have chased another championship by trying to go to another super team in the last 2 years, but he chose to finish his career in Miami.
Yeah, loyalty is a rare thing. I've been married 35 years. I mean, and I know, it's loyalty is a rare thing, and that's what you appreciate about a guy like him. And yeah, so you're right, spot on.
And when we look at Dwayne Wade, Bobby, he went out the way you're supposed to go out. I saw him in an interview when they're talking to him in front of the crowd at Miami. I think it was Tuesday night, which was the final home game, and they asked him if he was going to do it like Kobe and score 81 points by taking 51 or 61 shots, and he said no. He said, my idea is to go out and help my team win. I don't care about any of that other crap. And in his final game, he became the oldest man in NBA history to record a triple-double. He went for 25 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists. I think they played at the Nets. I think right there, his final game kind of shows you what he was all about.
Yeah, and it also shows it explains why his teammates really, really wanted to put him in the playoffs for this last year, because winning was so important to him, and they saw how unselfish a star he was, and those guys wanted to put him in the playoffs, and it's just too bad they didn't. I would have liked to have seen that, and they, as we talked about for the whole time that I come on analyzing the NBA games, the Miami Heat were an excellent road team this year. I just wonder why they couldn't figure it out at home. That one is still boggling me. If they would have just played a 500 at home, they'd have been in the playoffs. They'd probably be a 6 seed. And that's just amazing that they couldn't win at home. I just wonder if the atmosphere there at Miami and surrounding maybe Dwayne Wade, because he is such a popular player, I wonder if that was too many distractions for them and that team. I don't know.
All right, that's enough of that. We are going to transition to the Eastern Conference NBA playoffs. We're going to start off with the number 1 seed Milwaukee against the number 8 seed Detroit. I think this is the first time Milwaukee has been the number 1 seed since 1974. I think they had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar still. And get this.
No. They had Lou Alcindor.
No, they didn't. They had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Was he already Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Yeah, don't try to correct me unless you know what the freak you're talking about.
They had Oscar Robertson, too, did they not?
1974, they did not.
They did not? Okay.
They had him in 1971 when he won the NBA championship. 1974 was Kareem. I don't think Oscar wasn't there in 74, was he, Bobby? I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think he was.
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I think he retired right after they won the championship when they swept the Bullets. But when we look at this series, you got Giannis, who I think has to be the favorite to be the league MVP. And I may be crazy here, Cole. I think Milwaukee's the best team in the NBA, including Golden State. I think Milwaukee's going to win it all, and I think they're going to walk through Detroit. Nobody walks through Detroit, by the way, unless they're heavily armed. But go ahead, Cole.
That was good, Mike.
Solid advice. But, I agree with you. I think Milwaukee's certainly going to walk through Detroit. I believe this is the only playoff series outside of the Thunder and the Trailblazers where one team swept the other. Milwaukee went 4-0 against Detroit this year. Detroit's kind of dealing with some injury issues. Blake Griffin hasn't been exactly healthy. And I think Milwaukee is far and away the best team in the East when they're healthy, when they're clicking. They just have so many different weapons they can hit you with. I think they're a very well-coached team. And like you said, Giannis is up there in the MVP conversation. No team has really found a way to slow him down. I think the Bucks sweep this one, guys.
Bobby, you agree?
Oh, it's definitely a sweep. This is the biggest mismatch of the this 8 series, and I don't see Detroit sniffing a game here at all.
All right, Steve, agreed?
I never bet against Bobby. So whatever Bobby says, I agree with.
So are you picking Villanova to win the NBA this year?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, don't laugh, Bobby. You're the one that mocked me and Cole when we said, you know what we said. All right, next up, we've got the number 2 seed, the Toronto Raptors. Will be playing against the Orlando Magic. The Raptors traded for Kawhi Leonard, in hopes of finally getting an elusive Eastern Conference championship. I don't think they'll get that championship, but I think they're going to beat Orlando. But I like this Orlando team, Bobby. I watched them play a few games. They play hard. I think they could get a game or two, though, in this series.
They're going to maybe make it interesting, and because they're the hottest team of that lower tier of the Eastern Conference. They're the hottest team, and they have a really solid front court, and their back court improved dramatically the last 20, 30 games. They were the top 2 or 3 against the spread, so they were winning and covering, and that's a very interesting team, and they might be a year away from being in the conversation a little bit better than being a 7 seed. The thing about Toronto, their opponent, is we kind of know what we're getting with Orlando. Toronto, I'm not sure we really know, because they mixed and matched a lot of their lineups throughout the whole second half after they got Marc Gasol, and Kawhi Leonard was in and out. They did the load management thing with him more than any other star this year was Kawhi Leonard, and I don't know. To me, they could be better than Milwaukee, kind of a hidden team that didn't really put near their best effort forth, or they could be a team that really won't ever find it. And if they don't find it, they could be a casualty to Orlando. So that's a real interesting matchup there.
All right, Steve, do you agree, or do you think Orlando can win the series?
No, here's what I think about the NBA playoffs is that this is an elite group of athletes. I mean, these are some of the greatest athletes in the world. And I think they go through an 82-game schedule. They travel. They spend a lot of time away from their families, away from home. And when the playoffs come, things change dramatically. And I'm not a big fan of Toronto. I know we're going to get a text, I'm sure, shortly from Lucas about Toronto. I like Orlando upsetting this, pulling this off and getting it done and moving on. I just think teams elevate themselves when it becomes important to play. And I know that. And I'm not sure Toronto's is safe here. It's my theory.
They're safe. They got Kawhi Leonard.
Wow.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
He was what do you mean, whatever? And how do you know? You didn't play in the NBA Finals. You played in a one and done. If this was a one and done, everything you said, I think, would hold water. But in a best-of-7 series, usually the best team wins. And with Kawhi Leonard, he's not the typical Toronto, which chokes in the playoffs. The guy was the NBA Finals MVP in 2014. But all right, so Steve picked Orlando.
That's right, and I'll put some perspective on
No, I'm just saying if there's going to be an upset, I think this is where the upset's going to happen.
Oh, no.
If there's going to be one, that's all. And
There'll
Bobby,
be an upset. There'll be a few upsets in this NBA playoffs, I think, but we just haven't got to those yet.
But I think Orlando is a team that can rise to the occasion. They can, they can elevate themselves. And Toronto, I think, is a suspect team based on one player, and we'll see what happens. But I'm not picking anybody.
I don't think
saying I won't be surprised if Orlando wins this.
You got to give credit, I think, to the supporting cast, though, for Toronto, too, Steve. They've got some nice pieces outside of Kawhi Leonard. Pascal Siakam is a really, really nice young player for them. Kyle Lowry is a good point guard. Serge Ibaka is a nice big man for them. They've got a solid support. This isn't just the Kawhi Leonard show. Especially Pascal Siakam, I think, he's a very good offensive player, giving them about 17 points per game. And defensively, he's one of the best defensive players in the league. I mean,
Danny Green,
really,
too,
really
46% three-point range.
Exactly. They've got some nice pieces. It's not just Kawhi.
All right, next up.
They do have nice pieces. They are in the 2 spot, but I will say this. The reason why I think Steve has got something here, we're all saying correct things, but the reason why Steve's got something here is Kawhi was out a lot, and so now he's going to be the focal point of that team every game, day in and day out. But we don't know how really it all fits. Kyle Lowry's been the point guard and the captain of teams that have failed in the first round, second round every year, or third round, in the playoffs, not getting to the finals. He's been the captain of that ship. Siakam, this is all brand new to him, being a playoff mainstay. Green was a big part of the Spurs. But all I'm saying is there are questions here. Marc Gasol, he never has played in the playoffs with Memphis or deep in the playoffs. And they haven't really worked him in, perfectly yet because he had some injuries. This is a team, feast or famine, I believe. They could get to the finals, or they could be an early flameout.
Next up. This is the unpredictable one. This is the one where you just don't know where it's going to go. I mean, we'll see what happens. And, I see both sides of the fence.
I would like to bring up the fact that me and Cole both think this will be a short series, over in 5 games or less. Yeah. The guys that like the Lakers think it'll go longer.
And I'll get abused again, so no doubt.
We're hoping. All right, next up, the number 3 seed, the Philadelphia 76ers, will take on the number 6 seed, the Brooklyn Nets. I think the big question here, Cole, and maybe you can give us an update here if you've heard anything, you or Bobby. The Sixers played 24 games after the All-Star break. Joel Embiid missed 14 of them. Philadelphia on the season was 43-21 with him. They were 8-10 without him. So I think the big question here is Embiid going to be able to play this series healthy?
Yeah, so that's definitely the big question. I saw Elton Brand came out a couple days ago and just said he's optimistic that Embiid will be ready for the playoffs. But, that doesn't really answer the question there. But because it's not only is he going to play, but how healthy is he going to be if he plays? So, I think Philly – I think Brooklyn's a dangerous team for Philly. I think Brooklyn can steal a game or two here. And then if you're talking Embiid either not playing or playing but not being 100%, Philly is not the same team when he's not out there playing at 100%. So that could really make this a dangerous series for Philadelphia.
Yeah, when I look at this, Bobby, I think if he's not at 100%, I could see Brooklyn winning this series. If I had to make a pick now, I would say Sixers in 6 or 7. But if Embiid's not healthy, I think Brooklyn could win the series.
Well, for sure, if he's not healthy, they can. But what's going to help Embiid is that there are never back-to-backs in these playoffs. There's usually 1, often 2, sometimes 3 days in between. They stretch this out, so that will definitely help his cause. Philadelphia has only played 8 or 10 games all year with their A lineup all together, and I don't know if they've lost. Maybe once or twice. They might be like 8-2 or 9-1 when they play their number 1 team all together. So they've had injuries, with Butler as well, and of course most of that's due to Embiid and Harris. A lot of it was due to Harris because he wasn't there except for the end. So, I think Philadelphia could win this series easily, and I think it could also be one of those where they get upset.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the schedule of the series, they play Saturday, Monday, they play Thursday. I think the Saturday, Monday is the huge one, as we always talk about stealing one. I think maybe even stealing 2, because, that's going to be it for Brooklyn. If they lose the first 2, you can actually rest Embiid a little bit for the April 18th game and give him damn near a week off before you come back for Game 4.
That's right, and I think, based on your the way you're perceiving this series, the Brooklyn Nets would be a bet in Game 1 and Game 2. That's for a different show, but I think the Nets. You're right.
Yeah, I think the Nets are a really good team, and I think they're only going to get better over the next couple of years.
Yeah, really strong guard play.
Yeah, and that's what it takes to win. Well, actually, that's what it takes to win in college. Steve, Sixers or Nets?
Home court advantage. I'm not going to go against the Sixers. I think the NBA in early rounds especially is home court advantage. So I think they'll be fine. I agree with everything Bobby said about the team when they get the whole group together, and if they can get them all together, I think they may be the team to beat in the East. But we'll see.
That is true, Steve. I agree. They could be the team.
Yeah,
to beat.
I agree. Yeah, if they can get them all together, get them all healthy. They're the team to beat. Yeah, in the East. Yeah.
Who's the team to beat in the East?
The Bucks are the team to beat, but Sixers could be the hidden. Okay. If they can get everything, put it all right, they could upset them.
All right, next up, we've got the Boston Celtics at the number 4 seed against the Indiana Pacers at the number 5 seed. Boston has won 3 of 4 against Indiana this year, Cole. All 3 losses came after the Pacers lost Victor Oladipo to a ruptured quad tendon. The Pacers were just 23-23 without Oladipo. So, do the Pacers have a shot here?
I think they have a shot. I think Boston has been very inconsistent throughout the season. And that's something to keep in mind here. And then you have to keep in mind Marcus Smart is likely going to be out for this series, possibly even if they were to win going into the second round, they could also be missing him. So, Boston is definitely the more talented team. But I think Indiana has the potential to steal a game here, like you were just talking about stealing a game in the first couple games. And then, for the most part, these teams have been, outside of that last game that Boston really took it to them. It's been a pretty evenly played series during the regular season, even without Oladipo. I would go Boston in 6, but I think Indiana has a shot here.
All right, Steve?
Losing home court advantage killed the Pacers. I mean, they were up on Boston most of the season. And they had home court advantage, but I think you lose home court advantage, you got to play at the Boston Garden, and you're not going to win there.
Why not?
And I don't think
the Boston Garden doesn't even exist. They tore it down, Steve. This is like when I made the comment about. This is like when I made the comment about the Maple Leaf Gardens.
Yeah, well, they have a new arena that's the new Boston Garden. I don't think the Pacers have a chance here. They're out in the first round.
Okay, Bobby.
Completely disagree. I think Indiana has a big chance in this series. Boston, Cole, you hit it on the head. Losing Smart, now he doesn't mean he's out for the series. He's questionable. He may miss a couple games of the series, from what I just was reading yesterday. But Indiana's got a big shot in this series. Kyrie Irving is off to New York after this thing's over with. Boston team has played completely without any consistency or without any they're not even inconsistent within games. They'll play huge quarters, and next thing you know, they're tied at the end of the next quarter. This team is too up and down. Indiana's way more consistent, and I think better coached, and I think more defensive-minded. I think Indiana has a huge shot in this series.
Yeah,
and so does the betting public. The betting public as well. It opened minus 700 for Boston, which I could not believe. Mike, you and I talked about this on our show, and it's already down to minus 475. Indiana was getting 5-1. Now they're only getting 380, and it just keeps clicking down, down, down.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about coaching, I think that Brad Stevens is a better coach, but I think Nate McMillan has done a better job this year. And I think the big key here, Cole, is Bogdanovich and Sabonis.
Yeah. No, I think that's probably the Pacers' 2 best players. I think Miles Turner down low is going to be a big factor as well with his shot blocking ability. But, yeah, I mean, the Pacers have some nice pieces. Sabonis and Turner are a really, really good front court pair. You bring one out, you bring the other in. They can even play a little bit together. So really, Sabonis is probably in the discussion for 6th man of the year, I would think. He's got to be up there. Bogdanovich has really kind of shouldered that scoring load in the absence of Oladipo. And what the Pacers have is they just have really solid players up and down the roster. Thaddeus Young is really good. Wesley Matthews has done a solid job of trying to give the Pacers a little bit of outside shooting in the absence of Oladipo. Darren Collison's had a really good year after a kind of rocky start. So, yeah, I mean, there's really good pieces on this team, and that's why I think they have a shot here is losing Oladipo hurts them, but they have enough talent on the team up and down the roster to kind of, make up for it.
Yeah, and I think that as crazy as this may sound, I mean, I think the Pacers are going to win this series. I think they'll win it in 6 or 7 games. I just think they're a tougher team.
I agree with you. And Matthews, Collison all missed both missed time over the last couple of weeks, and they'll both be healthy for the playoffs. And then you get even deeper. 9th and 10th players, Leaf and McDermott, both when they got minutes and opportunities, were able to score and make baskets. This is a deep roster, and this is a really solid team. And I'm not so sure Stevens is a better coach than McMillan.
Wait a second. I think he is a better coach, but I think in the NBA, you can have stuff like the Kyrie Irving wanting out can make it really hard to have a great season from time to time, if you know what I mean. I think there's mitigating factors when you're coaching in the NBA.
Yep, agree.
But, all right, you guys want to move on to the West? We're going to go to number 1 seed, Golden State Warriors against the LA Clippers. I like this Clippers team, but the stat that stands out to me here, Steve, is this. The Clippers allowed 114.3 points per game, highest among the 16 playoff teams. If you're doing that, you're screwed when you play Golden State.
Yeah, and agreed entirely. Good point. I go back to, in the early rounds, home court advantage means everything. I don't know why. I don't know why it does.
Doesn't.
I don't know why.
You know why it does? Because usually if you have home court advantage, you're the better team because you played better during the season.
Right. Yeah, but when you're playing 4 games at home and versus 3 on the road, you know, you're sleeping in your own bed, you're driving your own car, you're not staying in a hotel, you're doing things differently more times than not. And I knew that in 1981 when we, you know, the Midwest Regional was in Bloomington. You know, we all slept in our own car. I drove my own car to Assembly Hall every day when we played in that game, in the games we played to win the Midwest Regional. And it makes a difference. It just kind of gets you more comfortable in what's going on. So I don't think there's much threat here. I think this is a wash.
All right. Cole, they got a chance to win a game?
Yeah, I would go Golden State in 5. I think the Clippers will steal one. I think, like you said, the defensive, intensity for the Clippers is a question. I mean, just that roster for Golden State is just up and down. They have so many guys that can score the basketball. I just think that's going to be way too much for the Clippers to handle.
Yeah, and let me say this, and Bobby, chime in, please, Bobby, because you live out here too. I don't think LA gives a crap. I mean, if it's not the Lakers, I don't think, Staples Center, I doubt that we'll be sold out. I doubt that it will be. I don't think anybody cares. You think it will be? Okay.
Yeah, they're playing Golden State number 1.
Speak to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, speak to it. Let's speak to it then.
Yeah, it doesn't mean your point is wrong, but they're playing Golden State, so that's the Stars.
So it's sold out for Golden State. So people drive
the only
down
team they're going to play in the playoffs.
Or the 5.
No, Clipper fans and Laker fans will all show up to watch Steph Curry and them.
That's correct.
Exactly. It's my point. Yeah.
It's kind of like when the Colts sucked in the late 80s. If they were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Hoosier Dome was sold out. If they were playing the Arizona Cardinals, it was just you and 3 other
empty.
people. Yeah.
Exactly. Touche.
But
there you go.
Bobby, is there anything we're missing on this series?
No, nothing you're missing. This is, again, like the Bucks series, this is another complete mismatch. The Warriors dominated them during the year. But the one thing I do want to point out is it's kind of too bad for the Clippers because they were a feel-good story this year. They were just a really good team, and they play well together, and they have Gallinari established himself as a star player this year, and they have a dynamic duo off the bench of Harrell and Williams. And you mentioned the Pacers, not Bogey, the other one, Sabonis. You mentioned Sabonis being a 6-man candidate, and he is, but he's trailing these 2 guys for sure. Harrell is phenomenal, and Williams is going to win that award for like the 5th time. That guy's unbelievable. And so they have a nice team. They just don't match up at all with Golden State. And it's just they're going to be one and done. And will they win a game? Probably not. Maybe one.
All right, next up.
So, Bobby, wait, Bobby, here's my question for you. Again, you live out here like I do. How much of an opportunity have the Clippers missed to take control of the NBA basketball franchise in Los Angeles, because the Lakers really have not done crap. I mean, they've been in the playoffs, 4 years? And so how much of the Clippers, how much have they missed this opportunity? Because the Lakers are going to get good. They're going to spend money and get good.
They tried to already with Paul, Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. And it did, it almost clicked. It was close to clicking, but it didn't, so they blew that up, and we're going on round 2. Well, before we get to round 2 with the star-type players, they're in this Indiana Pacers, Utah Jazz mode now, which I think is really, really cool. And, it's just not going to win an NBA title, and it's not going to win a series when you got to play Golden State. But they're still a really good team and fun to watch.
All right, next up, we're going to go to number 2 seed, Denver Nuggets, who were great at the start of the year, not so great now, against the San Antonio Spurs, who were the number 7 seed. Denver was a league best 34-7 at home. They were below 500 on the road at 20-21. What do we think here? Because I think this is a 6 or 7 game series, Cole. I think the Spurs are going to win it. I don't think Denver's played very well. I think that's a huge cause for concern. I like the Spurs in this series.
Yeah, I think if San Antonio can steal home court here, with what you said about Denver, how good they've been at home and how not so good they've been on the road, if they can steal home court here, I think Denver panics a little bit. I think these first 2 games are really going to tell a lot about this series. I think Denver needs to go 2-0 here. I don't think Denver wants to lose the game here because I don't know if they'll recover from that with how struggling they've been on the road. San Antonio's a very good home team too. I mean, this is a team that's 32-9 at home. So, that's the second best home mark in the West outside of Denver. So if they steal a game on the road here, I think San Antonio wins. If I had to, I'd probably go Denver and 7 here. I do think they pull it out, but if San Antonio steals a game on the road here, and San Antonio's not been a particularly good road team either, so that's not far from a sure thing. But if they can steal a game, I think you're looking now at a San Antonio-led series.
All right, Bobby, I think they need to steal a game, but I think that may be the 5th game. And the reason I say this is this. I think Denver's going to come in this a little jacked up, maybe get those 2 at home. They're going to go to San Antonio. Game 3 is only on 1 day's rest. I think they get Game 3 and Game 4, which both games are on 1 day's rest. They get a little momentum, and Denver all of a sudden kind of continues this downfall they've had. And I think San Antonio wins this series in 6, actually.
Great call, Mike. That's exactly what I think, too. And I think you're right. There are 2 shots to win this series. Win your games at home. That's a given. San Antonio is going to beat them those home games. Okay. Now, can they steal one of the first 2, or are they going to have to wait and do it in Game 5? 2 huge shots right there. I'm saying they will get one of those, and I'm saying that they'll move on. San Antonio. This was a big deal for them that they drew Denver. They wound up in the 7th spot and drew Denver because whoever drew Denver was going to have a big shot for the upset. And it wound up being Popovich, and we all know how he can prepare teams in the playoffs. And I love San Antonio in this series. They're getting over 2-1 to win it. So,
Steve, what do you think? Denver, San Antonio.
I think this is Greg Popovich against the talent of Denver. And, you have to understand, I coached Gary Harris. So I raised this kid.
So you're saying that he's probably not going to be able to get it done?
No. I think he's going to be phenomenal.
Oh,
Mike, God, that hurt.
I didn't know what you were saying. I mean,
it's
what I thought when it happened. So
I know the work ethic of Gary Harris and his family and his parents and the work ethic he does. He comes to the game ready to win and play. So you basically have a kid like Gary Harris and the talent of the Nuggets versus Popovich, who arguably, Bobby, is the best coach in NBA right now. Would you agree?
Well, of course.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
I hate him. He's an asshole. Freaking liberal. Go ahead.
this is another great series that it's just going to come down to, who gets the break, who gets the 51% of the luck factor in any one game to get one up on somebody else. But I would not bet against Popovich, but I would not bet against the talent of the Denver Nuggets either. So, that's why we have Bobby and we have the Sheridan Report, and that's why we do that show. So you make that call. But
what's your call, Steve? You got to make a call. You've already disagreed with Bobby on at least one series, so you can do it again.
I'm calling 911 right now. There we go. I like Denver in this one. I like Denver in this one.
All right, so Steve will be wrong twice. Let's see. Next
twice.
up.
No, another time.
Number 3 seed, the Portland Trail Blazers against the number 6 seed, Oklahoma City. Portland lost all 4 games against OKC by an average of 7 points. I think Portland's capable of winning this series. Russell Westbrook had 34 triple-doubles in 73 games this season to tie Magic Johnson on the career list with 138. Only Oscar Robertson has more, who has 181. He has 8 triple-doubles in 93 postseason games, well behind Magic's 30. This series, I think, is too close to call, and I think Bobby's going to go with Oklahoma City. I think I'm going to go with Portland. Even though they didn't win any games in the regular season against them, I like Portland in this series. I like Portland in 7.
Can I interject something in here real quick before you guys all start discussing this? Because is Oklahoma City probably the biggest disappointment in the NBA, Bobby?
No, the Lakers are.
Lakers.
Okay, the Lakers. Okay, we'll take the Lakers out of the equation. But, here's a team that spent a crap load of money.
What was the record this year? What was it? How many games did OKC win?
I know, but what have they won?
49, Mike.
Yeah, they've won 49, 50 games. What do you mean, what have they done?
Okay.
In the past, they have failed, but this is not the past. This is the present. And I will give you this.
All right.
That past, I think, is also what pushes me to say that Portland pulls the upset here, Bobby.
Yeah, I mean, you could go on that based on the fact that they,
Well, it's not an upset, really, but they are the underdogs.
Yeah.
But don't you think they're the underdogs because of that 0-4 regular season against them?
Well, but they're not the underdog. They're actually favored in this series, and that's exactly why.
My bookie's got Portland plus 130, Bobby.
Right. Oklahoma. I thought we were talking about Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City's favored.
Yeah, I was talking about Portland as the underdog because it's weird when you get the underdog as the number 3 seed and the favorite's the number 6.
Oh, right, exactly. That you were talking about Portland. I thought you were talking about Oklahoma City because Steve brought up we were talking about Oklahoma City. No, Portland's failure in the first round.
I don't pay any attention to Steve. Go ahead, Bobby.
Portland's failure in the first round is documented, and they really want to break that. And what they should have done was just believe their coach and their organization when they sat everybody down, and they would have been in the 4 spot, and they'd be favored over the Utah Jazz, who have no guards. They have great guards in Mitchell, but they have no point guards, and so that screws up their whole team when they have to play Mitchell there and whatever. And they'd have been favored in that series. Now they're an underdog in the series, but Oklahoma City should win this. They played Portland. It's a bad matchup. They played Portland really strongly, and like Cole said, one of only 2 sweeps in the first round, and this is one of them. And it's very rare you see a 6 favorite over a 3. And Oklahoma City's had a good year. They have had a good year, and not underachieved at all. They won 49 games, I believe, and that just goes to show you how strong the West has been. And the home court has been strong, and that's what Mike's banking on here. But Oklahoma City, 100% confident that they'll get the job done here.
All right, Cole?
Yeah, I agree with Bobby. I think Portland.
Whatever. Steve, did you make a pick on this series yet? Go ahead, Cole.
Yeah. Yes, but I just think their struggles are well documented. I think Oklahoma City is a more talented team. I think Paul George is going to be in the MVP conversation at the end of the year. Mike, you brought up the triple-double numbers for Westbrook. I'd go Thunder in 6 in this one.
And don't forget Nurkic is out, so it's even more of a mismatch underneath them. Now they do have Enes Kanter, who's played well, and they do have a couple bench players that have played really well. We're giving Portland their due. They are a solid team, and Lillard is a great player, but Lillard, he has to battle with Westbrook now when he could have had Ricky Rubio. Portland's dumb. They're just stupid.
We're just mad because we may have lost a bet when they did that. So, all right. So now we
got to
hate
get the money
Portland.
back somewhere, Mike. We got to get the money back somewhere.
Well, I think we did last night, Bobby. All right.
Yeah, we did.
Especially you. Steve? Portland, Oklahoma City.
I'm old school. I go with team over talent. I think Portland plays better as a team. And I like to watch, and I'm going to be wrong. I'm going to get abused again, but I like teams that play together as a team, and Portland plays better as a team. I think that Oklahoma City is a bunch of talent that individualizes themselves, and they do well. And if they're playing good on that given day, they're going to be fine because they have so much talent. But I'll take a team over talent anytime I can. So I'm going to go with Portland on this one.
Yeah.
But I'll be wrong. I know I'll be wrong.
Well, that means I'll be wrong. So, damn it, if I'd have known you'd have done that, I wouldn't have done it. All right, next up, the Houston Rockets, the number 4 seed, against the Utah Jazz, the number 5 seed. I think this is going to be a better series than what people think. I don't think Bobby thinks it'll be that good, but I think Houston wins this in 7, Bobby.
Interesting. The Jazz have good numbers, both offensive, per possession numbers, and defensive metrics are very good. Gobert is probably the defensive player of the year this year. If he doesn't win it, he's in the conversation with Miles Turner, with Embiid. He does a great job, and he alters a lot of shots, and so that really limits some of the dribble drive stuff. And it'll be interesting to see if how often Harden goes to the basket. But no, Utah's not going to win this series, even though the
I
metrics
didn't say
and all
they
those things
weren't.
are there.
I just said I thought they'd cause more trouble than people think. And I think this, Bobby.
Yeah,
maybe,
but I think Houston's got plans on the whole deal, and I don't think Houston wants to be too winded, knowing that the Warriors are going to sweep the Clippers. They don't want to play 7, Mike. They're going to try to get this done.
You know why I would, Bobby? This is the thing. If you play 7, a day or two later, you're going to go play game 1. And I have noticed this over my long, long life. Typical, how about this? 1985. I think it was 85. Or was it 84? It was 1984. The Phoenix Suns took the LA Lakers to 6 games, the Showtime Lakers, and they played on a Friday night to win Game 6. Game 1 was back at the Boston Garden on Saturday. The Celtics had swept the Milwaukee Bucks, I think, in the finals that year, the Eastern Conference Finals. They had like an entire 8 days to rest, and everybody thought that the Lakers were going to get rung up. And what happened was the Lakers came in with some momentum, and the Celtics hadn't played in a while. I think this is a way to steal Game 1 doing it that way.
Well, wow. I mean, and there is precedence, and I do remember that, and there is precedence for that, and I can see that.
And I've seen that in a lot of series.
You know.
I mean, it's one of the ways that, was it the Nuggets that upset the Supersonics
Seattle?
one year? Yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
Or no, it was the second round. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, but I don't think you want to mess around with it. I think they're going to want to get rid of this series in 5 if they can, and get ready for what I think is the best 2 teams in the Western Conference. It's just going to be a semifinal matchup instead of a final. That's all.
Yeah, and I think this, though. I still think Houston's going to win a couple of games no matter what Houston wants to do. Cole, what do you think? But I do think Houston will win.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think Utah will win a couple games in this series. I just don't think they have Utah has consistent enough scoring to really go toe-to-toe with Houston. Utah's a good team. Defensively, they're very, very good. But, I would go Houston in 6. I just think they have too much.
All right. Steve?
Yeah, I would concur. Houston has just too much. I mean, and I love the team concept thing. I talked about it in the last matchup we talked about, but I think Houston has so much talent, and they play well together as a team as well. Yeah, I think Houston takes care of this without much problem.
All right.
Steve, don't forget too, they were a hamstring away from representing the finals last year.
Yeah, Chris
if
Paul
doesn't.
Yeah.
So this team has been through the wars, and they have they played this whole regular season to get to this spot. So,
all right. So
I don't think the Utah Jazz are going to keep them from getting a rematch with Golden State. I'll tell you that.
And Bobby, you and I have talked about the Jazz, and I know you love the Jazz because they play so much like a team and do so well together and play great concept basketball. But I just think the talent in this situation with James Harden, I mean, you can't shut this guy down. He gets it done, and he's got support all around him. I just don't see it happening. I think Utah, and again,
the way to beat Houston now is to let James Harden score 50 or 60 points, and then you'll beat him.
Shut everybody else down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I worry about this, Bobby, because as Cole said, Utah's a really good defensive team, and I think if they win about things like that, I think that's what gives them a chance.
Yeah. Okay. And I
but I still think Houston will win.
Utah might not win a couple of it.
And I still
think I know one of Bobby's favorite teams is Houston. I mean, I know Bobby, you and I have talked personally, and I know you really like Houston or Utah, the way they play and how they effectively play as a team. But I just think, Houston's not a bad team. They've been inconsistent. You're right, but they've got home court advantage. Yeah,
they do. But Houston. Let's not confuse the viewers here. I do like Utah, just like I like Indiana. But I'm picking Indiana to win. I'm not picking Utah to win. Houston's going to win this series, I think, rather easily. So we'll see what happens.
All right, so let's do this. I know that we can't do a show previewing playoffs in any sport without, Steve bugging me. Hey, I want to tell everybody who I think's going to be in the finals. So we're going to pick who we think will be in the finals right now. Steve, I'll let you start it off. Who do you got in the NBA Finals?
Well, I got Golden State. I think they're still the team to beat. I think, and then on the East, I'm liking Philadelphia right now. I think if they're healthy, they're the team to beat on the East.
All right. Cole?
Yeah, I'm with Steve on Golden State. I think they're still the favorite, but I would go Milwaukee out of the East. I think they're the best team in the East.
Yeah, I'm going Milwaukee, Houston. Bobby?
Mike, I'm going Milwaukee, Houston.
Great minds
think
alike.
That's what I'm going with. Yep, that is correct.
Whatever that means. All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Cole, any final words? You want to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at ColeHanna5. And looking forward to the playoffs. I think we have a lot of good first-round matchups here.
All right. Bobby, same thing.
At Sheridan Report and the SheridanReport.com. And Cole, I appreciate your NBA analysis. I think it was spot on.
All right. Steve?
Appreciate it, Bobby.
Steve?
Oh, I don't. I got 20 different police departments trying to find me right now, so I'm not telling anybody where they can find me.
All right. So if you are one of those police departments looking for Steve, you can get a hold of me at Gruely Truth, and I'll let you know exactly where he lives. So if you're looking for him, also Cole Hanna probably knows exactly where he's at. And Bobby is close by, so he could set up a meet and greet and then be wired, and we could get him that way too. So Steve is definitely on the lam, so we got to make sure that we get Steve. So instead of where's Waldo, it'll be where's Steve. All right, guys.
There you go.
Me and Bobby will be back with the Sheridan Report. Bobby, are you good with 2:30 today?
I'm fine with 2:30, Mike.
Got a couple web things we got to take care of. I want to remind everybody you can now find us at thegruelingtruth.com. You can still hit us up at thegruelingtruth.net. It'll take you to .com. But go ahead and check us out at .com. We are going to go ahead and wrap the show up for today. I want to remind everybody to check out all of our shows on iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, iTunes, Spreaker, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Steve Risley, Bobby Sheridan, Cole Hanna, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.